Gopal, thank you for the nice introduction. And thanks Amol for your presentation. You made my task a lot more difficult, but I think you've covered everything. So I have to be really on my toes to make sure I say something which you have not already spoken about. But yeah, thanks for the great presentation. If you guys don't mind, can you guys come in the front? It will really help you. It will be more helpful if you could see what's on the slide, and I think you might not be able to see what's going on. I mean, just to be. This presentation will cover some concepts that Amol has already covered, but since I come from research, it will be a lot more technical details. Actually, parts of these slides are really from a tutorial that I gave a couple of months ago. You will see a lot of that flavor. So if you like technology and some more details, it might appeal to you, but if not, then it will be a lot of weird characters. I'll start with OpenFlow, just kind of go a little bit more in detail of what is OpenFlow and all that. Then I'll talk about SDN and OpenFlow. Are these interchangeable, the same terms? Are they different? If they are, how they are different? And the promises and the challenges. Actually, the promises part is really taken care by Amol. I don't need to talk much about promises, but maybe I'll go a little bit more in detail about some of the promises. And then some of the challenges. I think the challenges part would be interesting to people. There was a question on how academia can be part of this. If you cover any of the networking conference, you will consistently see there is a big session, an entire session devoted to just software-defined networks across all, whether it's SIGCOMM, it's NSDI, CONEX, you name the conferences, and there's one session of 2 to 3 hours just devoted to software-defined networking. So there's no dearth of challenges, no dearth of research topics to work on in this area. In my view, other than the marketing hype, there are actual real nice challenges that academia can work on in this area. Okay. I'll start with some basics. So this is how a typical switch looks like. It has several ports. The 2 ports on the top are typically the management ports. A switch typically consists of a data path, which is the hardware. It's implemented in hardware, and a control path that's in software. We usually call it as the firmware of the switch. Everything is in this packaged unit, but firmware can be upgraded. Hardware is essentially ASIC, can't be upgraded. You just have to throw it out and put a new one. So these are the two main planes. This picture shows the third plane, which is the management plane. So the data plane here refers to really the task of forwarding, buffering, filtering, scheduling. So all these tasks happen in the actual switch hardware. The time scale we are talking about are around nanoseconds, and this is in hardware. The control plane, which again it's inside the switch, but in the firmware, does more of the decision making. It participates in routing protocols with other switches, which are all distributed routing protocols. And the latency here is not nanoseconds, but somewhere around 10 milliseconds or whatever. And then there is a management plane, not shown in this, but because this is a switch, the management plane sits somewhere here. Some human actually, sends a command or looks at some statistics. So the time scale we are talking about here are some minutes to hours kind of a time scale, typically used for analysis, configuration, and those kind of things. When we talk about SDN, a lot of the SDN talk is really combining all three, and we'll talk about where the differences are. The OpenFlow implementation, as Amol mentioned, OpenFlow is the protocol that the switch has to support and is the only standard right now, or one of the premier standards or the first standards in the SDN area. which started the SDN hype and everything around it. That sits in the switch, so it essentially sits at the control path layer. So it's not part of the hardware. It's actually part of the switch control path, and it talks to the OpenFlow part of the switch, talks to the OpenFlow controller through a TCP connection, and the TCP connection can be optionally over a secure socket layer. So this is a secure connection, and this controller could be anywhere else in the in the internet, or typically in the same data center, or could be directly connected to this switch. And most often it will be directly connected to the switch. So this slide gives an overview of what OpenFlow is. Started as a Stanford University project back in 2008. The basic idea is you separate the data plane from the control plane. This picture actually shows how things are implemented in the current in the current switches, where the control plane still resides and the OpenFlow part resides in parallel to it. But the original idea is the entire control plane will be taken out of the switch, and it will be just residing in the OpenFlow control. The reason this is the way it is right now, because none of the switches, at least none of the major vendor switches, are just OpenFlow. They have an OpenFlow mode, and they have a usual regular mode in which they do their regular layer 2, layer 3 routing. So this is how things are. But the idea behind OpenFlow is that the control plane will be entirely taken out of the switch and will reside on this controller, and you can run actually your programs, whatever written in Java, C, Python, which will essentially create this control plane. The switch will be abstracted out as a flow table that is visible to this control plane, and the controller can then install rules onto this flow table through an open standard called OpenFlow. And this is where the protocol becomes very important, because this is an open standard. Anybody can implement this controller, anybody can implement an OpenFlow enabled switch. And once the rules get installed in the flow table, packets get routed as per the rule that has been installed. The rules typically are of this type. Basically, the rules have a 12 field match tuple, so you can match on the switch port where the packet comes on, the VLAN ID, the source MAC, destination MAC, source IP, destination IP, source TCP port, the destination TCP port, and then you can specify an action. The action could be, you could forward to a particular port on the switch. You could and you could forward to one or more ports. So you could actually implement some sort of a multicast or packet mirroring kind of a scenario. You could drop the packet, which essentially becomes some sort of a firewall action, or you can modify certain fields in the packet, which can be used for several of the network virtualization functions. At a very high level, having this control plane control the switch essentially means that the controller can now take decisions such as, I'll allow HTTP traffic only through this path in the network and no other path. But if situations change, let's say the node in the system changes, it can choose a different path dynamically, and all these things can happen, can change with time dynamically, and the controller can learn these things, because at the end of the day, the controller is just a regular Java program. So it's up to you what you program in that Java program. This is another example, I think. This shows how the switch looks like at time t equals to 0. Let's say the server 1, 2, 3, 4 wants to talk to a server with an IP 5, 6, 7, 8. And when it wants to talk to this and the switch is in the OpenFlow mode, it will not forward this packet by default.
By default, what will happen is it will see that there is no matching. There is no matching rule here because the flow table is empty. It will send a message to the controller. This is called a packet in message. The controller can then just implement any logic. You can program any logic, or if you had already installed, given controller a directive that if there is a packet from 1, 2, 3, 4 to 5, 6, 7, 8, always output to port 1. So it is really up to you the kind of logic you implemented, and it will install a rule like this. So you can match just on destination IP and leave everything else as a wildcard and say output to port 1.
So this is essentially what basic OpenFlow programming is. Basically controlling the routing path through rules that can match on several different fields. This is again just a repetition of what I said earlier. So how the rule looks like. The rule would have a sorry about that, I think there's some issue with the the rule will have several of these tuples on which you can match. Then the rule can then forward the packet. If the rule then has an action based on the match, the action could be forward to 0 or more ports, encapsulate and forward to the controller, modify fields, or drop the packet. And then optionally you can also have some statistics, so you can poll the switches for how many packets have matched a particular rule and so on and so forth. So the controller can actually poll switches to figure out what's going on in the network. These are more examples. So if you were to do switching, which is essentially layer 2, so you would match on the destination MAC, leave everything as a wildcard and specify some output port. If you're doing flow switching, which is you match on every field on the packet and then specify an action. If you had a firewall, you can just, since it's typically done at layer 3, you can just specify a TCP port, leave everything as wildcard and say action is drop. If you're routing, which is essentially a layer 3 phenomena, so you can match on an IP source or destination value and say what is the action to be done. If you're doing VLAN switching, you can match on VLAN, the destination MAC and the VLAN ID. And you can specify a set of ports. So these are really examples of how an OpenFlow enabled switch can be made to work like any layer 2 or layer 3 switch, because essentially it has all the power to do what a layer 2 or layer 3 switch would do. This is the list of OpenFlow actions. This is from the 1.0 spec, which is the most widely implemented spec in the switches as of today. You can output to switch ports. The ports can be physical or virtual. I'll not go into the details here. You can do a drop. You can set fields. So you can modify fields in the packet header. You can modify the Ethernet or the MAC source address or the destination MAC, the IP source and destination addresses, the TCP or the UDP source and destination ports. You can add a strip or you can pop the outer VLAN tag. And going forward in OpenFlow 1.1 onward, there are several other functions that can be done. Support for tunneling, support for doing a push pop on multiple VLAN and PLS and PVB tags. But the interesting thing here is, if you look at OpenFlow per se, this is really about control plane. This is really about specifying how to route a packet. It's not about configuration. It doesn't really do anything related to configuration. Configuration is really handled in a separate specification called OF-config. So here you can do several other things like configurations of queues and ports on the switch, and you can remotely bring change some aspects of a port, for example, bring up a port or bring down a port. So to really do everything that SDN would promise, you would also need some sort of an OF-config implementation. But as of today, there is no real implementation of OF-config. It stays in a specification state. Only the spec has been approved, but there is no real implementation.
Any questions so far on OpenFlow? I mean, I would really like you to ask questions so that if there are any doubts we can clear now. Any questions?
This SDN concept and all can be used only in private networks, is it? It's not on internet or anything.
So far, most of the applications and the demos are all on the within a data center, mainly because the assumption is that the switches support the switches support OpenFlow protocol. But this is only true about OpenFlow per se, and I'll talk about why. I think some concepts of SDN can hold end to end. So maybe when we talk about SDN, it will become clear. If you are not doing any processing on every switch on the path, then SDN can still do things. So for example, there is the other alternate where you only do things on the edge, which means you do things only on the either the virtual switch inside the server, or you do on the first hop switch. So you can add a header or modify the header on the first hop, and then again demodify or decrypt the header on the last hop. Everything in between is transparent. So everything in between could be a internet switch or whatever. Right? So in that context, it still works in the internet scenario. But if you need something that happens on every switch on the path, for example, changing the route or those kind of things, then you cannot do it across the internet because the internet routers do not support OpenFlow. And they are unlikely to support OpenFlow in any near future. I mean, that's also, let's accept that. Any other question? Okay, marketplace, this slide is slightly dated, but there's lots of activity across the stack. So you have switches that support OpenFlow. There's the Open vSwitch, which is really a virtual switch that sits inside the server, runs in the hypervisor layer. There is the other Indigo, and these are pure OpenFlow switches. And there is the vendors switches like from HP, IBM, NEC. There are several controllers available. A lot of them are open source, some are proprietary. But mostly the SDN phenomena is around open source. So other than maybe the Trema, I think everything else is open source. Trema is the controller from NEC. And a lot of startups in this area. I mean, the big ones have really joined the party late. The startups were the ones starting from the Stanford startup, which was Nicira, acquired by VMware for $1.26 billion last year. So there's still a lot of startups in the area waiting to be bought over. OpenFlow enabled switches, routers. This is again a slightly dated slide, but pretty much all major vendors now support it, but they don't support it retrospectively. That means they support it only in the newer range of switches, but the older ones will never be OpenFlow enabled. So you really have to throw your existing switch out if you want to play with OpenFlow. Or you do OpenFlow only at the edge, so which means you just throw your first hop switch, or you use this Open vSwitch inside the server and do things there and leave the rest of the network as is. So it brings me to this point about Open vSwitch. This is an important cog in the wheel of entire SDN story. Personally for me, this is my belief, others may disagree. Mainly because of the reason that she mentioned, you cannot throw away everything in the data center network or on the internet. So for some foreseeable future, at least for 2 years, everything will be done just at the edge, unless you are starting greenfield or starting a new data center, which means you really have to use something like an Open vSwitch. So it's a switch stack which can run both as a soft switch within a virtualized environment, or as the control stack for hardware switches. So you can either just put it in your hypervisor Zen or KVM, or you can, there are some companies like Pika and which just essentially take this image, burn it in firmware, and they sell a switch which just runs OVS in hardware. it supports OpenFlow, so it has two control interfaces. One that supports OpenFlow, which means a regular controller can talk to it, install rules, do everything else that that we covered in the previous slide. But it also supports a different config protocol, and that takes care of all those other issues that OpenFlow doesn't support. So you can configure it to create tunnels, do QoS, do some monitoring based on NetFlow. So OVS in that sense is fully programmable from a control plane perspective as well as a management plane perspective. And because it can run on the hypervisor, you essentially can just do SDN at the edge and leave everything else unchanged. Okay, the next point in the talk is really around OpenFlow and SDN, how they are similar, how they are different. So what we saw was that OpenFlow adds the ability to modify, experiment, create all these rules, but it's not easy to create all these rules for either to write a program for it or even to manually add all these rules through an interface. So in some sense this is similar to assembly language programming. It's powerful, but nobody can write huge assembly line programs. So you really need an ecosystem around it, and that's where SDN comes in, because OpenFlow at the end of the day is just a forwarding table management protocol or the southbound interface. So the software-defined network paradigm really puts everything else around it so that OpenFlow can be used to write meaningful applications and so on and so forth. There is no one definition for SDN. I'll take one which is the most popular, but there are others who have their own different definitions. This definition is really taking the OpenFlow argument slightly further, which is to have SDN you need to have separation of control plane and data plane. But you can have some other things, and that's the SDN ecosystem. So this slide essentially shows how the switches are today. Basically, you have an operating system in the switch, which is the control plane, specialized packet forwarding hardware, and some applications which run OSPF, BGP. These are the protocols which this slide calls as applications. But everything is closed. And all of these participate in distributed algorithms, distributed control routing protocols. The software-defined networking approach really opens it. So it takes the network operating system out, which is the control plane, and it also takes the applications out. So all those applications that that talked BGP, OSPF now no longer run inside the switch, but run outside. So you have so the network operating system has a standard API or the protocol to talk to the switch hardware, which is called the southbound API or the OpenFlow protocol. And the applications on the top talk to the network operating system through another well-defined API, which is the northbound API. Unfortunately, the northbound API is not standardized right now. So if you have a network operating system or a controller from HP, another controller from IBM, there is no standard way to talk to those controllers. They all have their own REST APIs. So that part is not standardized, which is one reason that the vision that Amol talked about of a marketplace for applications, some sort of a Google Play or Android market where applications are just around in the market and anybody can buy it for its own controller. At least till there is a standardized northbound API, it may not be the case. Because the only standard really right now is on the southbound, which is OpenFlow. So this picture really gives you this difference between OpenFlow and SDN. OpenFlow is one protocol or the standard, and the only protocol and standard. The rest of the ecosystem is SDN, but there are no standards around it. So everything is being bundled as SDN, but OpenFlow is the only standard in that entire scheme of things. This is another piece to the whole puzzle where you can have multiple network operating systems. Just like on a server, you can run multiple VMs, and each VM can run multiple operating systems. Even the network operating systems can be multiple, and for that you need a different virtualization and slicing layer, so there are implementations for such things. There is a thing called Flowvisor which will virtualize your physical infrastructure like this. This is the IBM SDN architecture. So IBM's definition of SDN is not this control plane and data plane separation. The official definition from IBM is it's an emerging framework designed for virtual, dynamic, and flexible networking that allows organizations to easily modify, control, and manage today's physical and virtual network. There are two key parts to it. One is SDN will essentially combine control plane, data plane, and management plane. So it's no longer just about data and control plane separation. Two, it will also cover both virtual networks and physical networks, which means VMs and clouds and some physical networks. We essentially have two main sets of products. So we on the OpenFlow side, we have the IBM Programmable Network Controller, which is the OpenFlow controller, and we have our GA264 switches that support OpenFlow. And on the overlay side, so overlay is really SDN at the edge, where you do things only at the edge. So there we have IBM SDN for VE, SDN for virtual environments. So in a VM environment, you can do certain things on just the hypervisor at the edge, add some headers, remove some headers, and that's what this product does. And this product essentially is for legacy networks. So if all your network doesn't support OpenFlow, you can use IBM SDN for VE. If it's all OpenFlow, you can use the OpenFlow controller product from IBM. If it's a mix, then we have some other products that will come in near future. The SDN buzz. This chart is really from Gartner. So it shows what is known as the hype curve. So every technology, when it starts up, eventually goes at the top of the hype curve, and then after the top of the hype curve, it enters this trough of disillusionment where people realize that everything it promised cannot be done, and then slightly over time there's some slope of enlightenment where they realize, okay, some things can be done, and then finally the plateau of productivity. This is a slide from 2009 when cloud computing was at the top of hype curve. Right now, I think cloud computing has somewhat gone into some plateau of productivity, but SDN as it stands today is just at the top of the hype curve. There is very limited production SDN usage right now. So in that sense, it's all researchy, it's all experimental, lots of things to be done, but whether there is money being made out of SDN, my answer would be no. Gartner, again, this is another report from Gartner. It's one of the top 10 trends to watch. This picture is again from Gartner. I think the key information on this slide is really the time frame. So the critical time frame for this technology is really 2014 to 16, and I would assume it's really 2016 and not 14. Maybe 15 and 16 are the critical time frames where you would see some real, money being made out of SDN. So this is the part on promises. I think Mo will probably cover a lot of those and in probably a lot more detail than I would do. This is really coming from a very, very academic study. I mean, these are all some top papers that covered a lot of these SDN use cases. So network virtualization, the ability to hide your actual physical network from your applications, right? So just part of the R&D activity. This is a lot of detail. I mean, this is essentially showing how you would actually go and program an OpenFlow controller. There are two ways. You either write a module which sits inside the controller, or it's a module that's an external application that just talks to the controller through an established API. So those are the two standard ways to interact with an OpenFlow controller. This picture is interesting because it shows that both switch. Now you will have several of these customers with their own sets of VMs, and each customer would want to specify a set of IP addresses for its VM, and there's no guarantee that those IP addresses are unique, so they could be exactly same, they could be partially overlapping, and as a cloud administrator you would want to support all of those. So address space overlap or network virtualization is a key requirement. They would also want some sort of a performance guarantee. If I need 1 Gbps, I will always get 1 Gbps. So shared network doesn't become a bottleneck. And you would need performance isolation to the extent that if somebody else starts, pumping in a lot of data, it should not really choke my network. So all of these are tailor-made use cases for SDN, and some have been solved, some are being solved as we speak. But this is an interesting use case. Okay, so this is my last slide on challenges. All of these challenges are being overcome to various degrees. Some are almost being overcome, some are just being, people have started looking at it, but this is all really stuff that academia is interested in. So single point of failure, scalability bottleneck, those things that Amol also mentioned, and these are essentially all engineering issues, that how do you make that controller run on a distributed infrastructure with high degree of failovers, availability, and so on and so forth. The problem in this case is slightly more complicated than a typical distributed infrastructure, mainly because the OpenFlow controller has a lot of state inbuilt in it. Lot of information about what flows are being. Okay, thank you.